Hello, we're here with Greg Conko, Senior Fellow of the Competitive Enterprise Institute, co-founder of the Ag BioWorld Foundation, and author with Henry Miller of the Frankenfood Myth. To start out, Greg, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the biotech crops that are being grown today and what they do?
Most of the biotech crops that are on the market today have been modified with one of three traits: insect resistance, which helps farmers spray less insecticide; herbicide tolerance, which lets farmers switch to more environmentally friendly herbicides and to adopt soil conservation practices that help eliminate erosion; or resistance to certain plant diseases, which essentially acts like a vaccine for the plants. Each of these has had tremendous benefits, increasing yields and helping farmers improve their economic productivity. They're especially helpful for small-scale farmers in developing countries where the yield gains can often mean the difference between eking out a bare subsistence and generating some profit in given years, helping them to improve their lot in life. Other varieties that are now working their way through the approval process have added traits such as drought resistance, which helps farmers grow plants with less water; added vitamins and nutrients, which makes the foods healthier for consumers; and some plants are actually being developed specifically for poor resource farmers in the developing world, so they grow better in the harsh soils and tropical climates. They help take up soil nutrients better.
We've heard a lot about how biotech crops are just for big industrialized farmers. So who's growing these biotech crops and where?
Most of the biotech products on the market today were developed for big farmers in industrialized countries like the United States and Canada. But very early on in practical experience with biotech crops, it became obvious that the benefits could be had not only by large-scale farmers, but even small-scale farmers in small developing countries. So today, biotech crops are being grown on more than 300 million acres in 29 different countries, most of them in less developed or transitional countries like Brazil, Argentina, India, China, and elsewhere. In fact, more than 90% of the 15.5 million farmers that are growing biotech varieties are small-scale farmers in less developed countries.
Farmers seem pretty eager to get their hands on biotech crop varieties, but what's in it for consumers?
For the varieties that are on the market today, most of the direct consumer benefits come in the form of lower prices. They dramatically increase yields for farmers, so more productivity equals lower commodity prices. But there are also some important health and environmental benefits that indirectly help consumers. So for example, with health benefits, there's a lot of evidence to indicate that the plants that are protected against insect pests and plant diseases are actually healthier for consumers. Some of the most remarkable benefits come on the environmental front. Insect-resistant crops, for example, help farmers spray less chemical insecticides. In some countries, with some crops, we're seeing insecticide spraying down by 50 to 75%. With herbicide-tolerant varieties, farmers don't need to plow up their fields anymore to get rid of weeds. That helps cut soil erosion by up to 90%. And it also helps farmers switch to more environmentally benign herbicides. Another big benefit is that farmers are spending less time in their fields on tractors. That reduces fuel consumption and oil and gasoline use. It also helps to eliminate or reduce emissions from heavy farm equipment by as much as 50%.
Don't higher yields also benefit the environment?
Merely generating higher yields is one of the most important environmental benefits of biotech crops. We already use about 1/3 of the world's land surface area to produce our food. So in order to feed a growing world population, we're going to have to use the best available technology at hand just to keep up. Another very important is more efficient water use. An estimated 70% of all the fresh water used around the world is used in irrigation for crops. That obviously puts a lot of stress on other human uses. Over the next few decades, we're going to need to double the amount of food we produce. And obviously we're going to have to be able to do that without increasing the amount of water we're using, or even to use less. Obviously the drought-tolerant crop varieties that will soon be on the market will go a long way to helping us reach that goal.
How can we be sure that biotech crops are safe for consumers?
All crop breeding involves the intentional change of plants' genetic code. But while a lot of consumers think that biotechnology lets plant breeders do something radically different, the opposite is true. They're actually making changes that are far more subtle than with conventional plant breeding. With conventional breeding, you're trying to alter or mutate a plant's own genes in a way that is wholly unnatural and unpredictable. With biotechnology, the changes the plant breeders are making are actually much more targeted and precise. In fact, all you're doing is taking a single gene or a small number of genes. They've been perfectly characterized, you know exactly what they do, and you can test before they're transferred to make sure that they're safe for consumers and for the environment. You're adding them into the new plant in a way that leaves the rest of the plant's genome undisturbed. Scientific bodies from the United States and all around the world, including the American Medical Association, the National Academy of Sciences, the World Health Organization, and many others, agree that the more precise nature of biotech plant breeding makes food safer for consumers and for the environment. Ironically, while we've seen some occasional and rare side effects from conventionally bred plants that are harmful for consumers, biotechnology has never caused a single problem to consumer health or the environment. Not a sneeze, sniffle, or tummy ache from any biotech food.
Does the widespread adoption of biotech crops threaten the availability of conventional crops for farmers and consumers?
Not at all. In fact, most plant breeders are very easily able to keep biotech and conventional varieties separate. Breeders from the beginning of agriculture have had to be sensitive to keeping their strains pure so that there's not cross-pollination of one variety with another. So they've developed over time some pretty common sense and easy to follow practices that keep one variety separate from another. So for example, sweet corn breeders need to keep their product isolated from the field corn that is dry and tasteless we feed to animals. In a more stark example, canola breeders need to keep their product separate from its wild progenitor, a plant called rapeseed, which includes a potent natural toxin. Rapeseed and canola are often grown in relatively close distances, but canola growers and canola plant breeders are easily capable of keeping the toxin from rapeseed from coming into their crop. You can do exactly the same thing to separate biotech and other conventional varieties.
Does the widespread adoption of biotech agriculture have a negative impact on natural diversity?
There's no evidence that biotech crops are eroding the natural biodiversity of wild species around farm fields. Scientists have been looking for these effects since the beginning of biotech agriculture in the 1980s. Haven't been able to find them. The main reason is that as a cultivated plant, the traits that make those plants useful for farmers don't work very well in wild environments. So when cultivated plants do escape the farm, they usually die out very quickly. So there's been no effect of biotech crops on wild biodiversity.
Greg, thank you very much for being with us today on Green State TV.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.